Welcome everyone back to weekly weather updates, and in today's video we have the latest from the live radar. Run for the latest weather warnings. We have numerous snow and ice warnings issued over the coming days as we are seeing very cold air moving in from the north. Now, at the moment, they are positioned in the typically pretty prone areas for a northerly wind. Northern areas of Scotland, North Sea coast, out towards the Irish Sea and parts of Northern Ireland as well. These areas are typically pretty prone in this sort of setup, and as expected, we are going to see snow showers, perhaps quite extensive snow showers in places, especially across Scotland over the next couple of days, and maybe more enhanced across eastern England, maybe East Anglia, northeast England, as we head through Wednesday into Thursday. Also, overnight Tuesday to Wednesday, there is a larger disturbance that moves down the spine of the British Isles. It does have a bit of milder air mixed in, so it will give that freezing level a little bit of a rise. So from close to sea level to maybe more moderate hills, and there is still a lot of uncertainty over the typing of that precipitation, but definitely some interest there in the next kind of 48 hours or so. And we'll have to look at that in detail, set on the latest UKV, arpege and icon runs. And then after, we'll have a look at the longer range, because as we have alluded to a lot recently, especially in our latest winter look aheads that we posted over the weekend, that this looks like it could just be the appetizer as we head into the proper start of winter in about 2 weeks' time, where at the moment we have pretty strong longer range signals for a return to blocking and colder conditions, and we are even starting to see hints on our, relatively short range runs. Look at the next 2 weeks or so, even here, especially the east end of the F already showing that blocking returning, maybe even east or northeasterly winds starting to move back in. So very interesting there in the second half of the video. So do remember, if you enjoy the videos, make sure to like and subscribe. Now, if you start on the live radar, you can see it's mostly dry at the moment. Recording this around 8:30 in the evening, so it is turning very cold out there. And you're starting to see some of those snow showers piling into northern Scotland. Now, initially, it's really the far north, and still a bit of a mix. But the very cold air is moving in. As we've alluded to over the past few days, it's Monday through to Tuesday, so the transition from chilly, cold to very cold. And really, Wednesday, Thursday, that's where it is at its height, and it is going to be very bitterly cold out there. Again, it's not a particularly long cold smell, but it is definitely quite sharp for this time of year. So some snow showers still continuing to move in, but most it is dry tonight. It is cold, but we're not going to see anything too low tonight. Could touch freezing, especially for inland areas, northern England, parts of Wales, further eastwards and southwards. You can see temperatures are dropping away towards the low single digits. Uncertain how close they'll get to freezing, or if they will even get below freezing, but at the moment definitely looks like a cold night, but they're just going to get colder over the next couple of days. But definitely the coldest night we've had of the autumn so far, quite widely, and as I said, it is just going to get colder and colder from here. Now, if you look at the latest weather warnings, we've got numerous warnings issued over the next 4 days. We've got ice warnings issued for northern parts of Scotland at the moment from 7 p.m. this evening until 10 a.m. tomorrow for that far north warning, and it's the same for the one further southwards and eastwards. And it's for simply overnight wintry showers and low temperatures will bring in ice risks. We're not really expecting much in the way of significant snow, a few wintry showers, maybe producing slight glazing out there, but it's more of an issue with ice, so really nothing too significant, but just showing you that risk starting to move in. And then we head into Tuesday. Look at this, the extent of the warnings is much more widespread across Scotland, and you can just see the transition as the much colder and potentially more wintry conditions start to move in. So still got those 2 snow and ice warnings. We've got a more widespread snow and ice warning here issued across pretty much all of Scotland, towards northern Scotland really, kind of central belt northwards for this initial warning from 6 p.m. tomorrow until 9 p.m. on Thursday. So this is a blanket warning. This isn't necessarily warning any specific events, but more simply from the fact that we're just going to see a lot of snow showers, a lot of convection at this time. So yeah, it's not really for any particular hour, but just this whole area, northern Scotland, see a risk for about 24 to 48 hours there between Tuesday into Thursday. Pretty typical in these sort of setups, I must say. Again, we're looking at perhaps 2 to 5 centimetres at low-lying areas, 5 to 10 centimetres on hills above 100 metres, which really is quite moderate. And then above more significant hills, 300 metres, we could be looking at 15 to 20 centimetres. Lightning strikes potentially out there. And again, that's because there are going to be some quite big, beefy convective showers. Again, very typical in this setup. Now, further southwards, we've got a more widespread snow warning issued from 3 a.m. until 6 p.m. Now, this is that initial area of interest we have. It is going to move further southwards and affect more widely on Wednesday, but initially it is going to move for Scotland here. A period of snow could be disruption to transport infrastructure across higher parts of Scotland. So we're looking here at 2 to 5 centimetres above 150 metres, and again 5 to 10 centimetres above 400 metres. So there's a lot of uncertainty over the typing of this. You can see it is initially an area of rain, and it's uncertain on its movement and its timings, but definitely prospects for some moderate snow. Not looking at significant snow here, no risk of an amber warning, at least at this stage, but definitely some moderate levels of snow to kind of moderate hills, maybe low-lying areas. But as I said, it is really uncertain with the precipitation typing here. It never is simple with snow. Either it is, we've got clear-cut precipitation and it's give or take whether it's going to be snow or rain or anything in between, or we've got very cold conditions and it's going to snow, but we are lacking the precipitation, or the precipitation is uncertain whether it's going to form. We never kind of have got both. We've never got guaranteed lots of precipitation and guaranteed cold enough. And it kind of comes with it, of course. The colder the air, the drier the air, the less likely there is precipitation. So that's kind of why we almost never get those two aligning, unless we saw like a perfect frontal event that we've seen in the past, but we're not seeing here at all. This is more convection based around an area, more enhanced area of low pressure. And then further southwards, we've got an ice warning, and this is for wintry showers, potentially a little bit of rain and hill snow there through Tuesday morning. Again, could be a few centimetres above the higher ground, but this is simply because the very cold air hasn't quite reached these areas by Tuesday. Into Wednesday, we've got widespread snow and ice warning still for Northern Scotland as expected, and then a snow and ice warning issued for North East England from 6 a.m. on Wednesday until 6 p.m. on Thursday. And again, we're looking at 2 to 5 centimetres, low-lying areas, 5 to 10 above hills, and maybe above 15 to 20 centimetres above moderate hills. So again, this is what I was talking about. Down that east coast, we could see a lot of snow showers, uncertain exactly how far they'll come inland and how long they'll last. But you can see here the kind of immediate 10, 20 miles in from the coast could see quite considerable snow. And you can see it is actually including some quite highly densely populated areas. Newcastle, Sunderland, Durham there, down towards Middlesbrough, we're down to Hull potentially. So yeah, could be some really lively conditions out there. And I suspect this could even be extended further southwards towards East Anglia, maybe even southeast England, far southeast of Kent there, as we head maybe Wednesday into Thursday, but we'll have to wait and see. And then you can see both those warnings still issued. So definitely kind of middle to second part of the week, there's still preliminary warnings at this stage, still could change. I'm expecting to see updates and perhaps more issued warnings, maybe even for parts of North Wales, Northern Ireland, as I said, East Anglia. Those areas do look like they will see some snow over the next few days. But yeah, warnings issued at the moment. I suspect they will be updated and amended over the next day or two. Now, if you look at the latest UKV, you can see snow showers pushing in for parts of northern Scotland through tonight, but nothing too severe. Then we start to see that disturbance forming during Tuesday. It looks pretty lively early through Tuesday, and then you can see it pushes southwards late on Tuesday into Wednesday evening. And this is where it drags very cold air, and we actually see some more significant snow there, even across the central belt of Scotland there. So again, a bit of mixing, but definitely something more significant. Rain further southwards though. But as that disturbance clears southwards, you see a bit of an eclectic mix of rain, sleet and snow into the early hours of Wednesday. And again, a lot of uncertainty over the precipitation typing here, but regardless, higher ground definitely could be warranting a warning from this, as again we could see maybe as much as 5 to 10 centimeters of snow. Nothing significant, nothing that is complete groundbreaking, but a good 3-4 hours worth of pretty moderate snow, especially this being fairly convection based. There could be some quite high rates out there. You can see though, low-lying areas, this is showing rain, but we've seen it, hover and change a lot, and we've seen nowcast situations where all the models show rain and it's snowed. Equally, we've seen models show loads of snow and it's rain. So it is a very difficult one here. There is a milder air mixing in. There is higher dew points. There is going to be rain there. There's no chance that it just flicks a switch. But if you are right on that boundary, you've got a bit of moderate elevation, there is a chance there's not quite what the UKV is showing here. That clears through on Wednesday. Clearing the far south during the morning. Again, perhaps some inland snow in places, and then the snow showers continue piling in, quite widespread for northern Scotland. As I said, area of interest down the east coast, Northern Ireland, and maybe North Wales as well. Those continue to pile in. And then as we head into Thursday, the UKV had a more sort of put together low pressure system moving in from the east. Now, some runs are still showing that, but not the UKV today. Instead, it's got a more organised area of showers, maybe not a more succinct weather front like it had yesterday. So it does look like the UKV was a bit overblowing it yesterday. I did, of course, caveat that. But yeah, we can see it's backtracked a little bit. But you can still see a widespread shower risk, snow showers, Northern Ireland, parts of the Republic of Ireland, lots across northern Scotland, and then all the way down the east coast, coming quite far inland at times. And then again, perhaps a bit of a Pembrokeshire dangler, where we see a bit of a line convection, or an area of convection developing, a convergence zone to be more specific, in the Irish Sea, giving snow for parts of southwest England and the far southwest of Wales. That's one to watch. And you can see those showers do pile quite far inland on Thursday afternoon, and then as we head further into Friday, we start to see a change. We start to see the cold air getting pushed away, and could see a bit of a transient snow event, but it looks like the mild air will undercut it as it heads into Saturday. Still some uncertainty how quickly these weather fronts will move through. Some runs still hold the cold air around on Saturday, but you see the UKV here does break it down quite quickly, and then we go a bit more mild, wet and windy off the Atlantic. Jet stream though is still southerly tracked. These lows are moving through a little bit further southwards than we would expect, and again that just shows you that there is still blocking around and there could still be further colder conditions. You see the upper air temperatures, it's still chilly. It doesn't turn very mild at all, so definitely chilly conditions are still around. If you look at the max temperatures, you can see overnight tonight, definitely cold, but uncertain how cold it will be. Most areas low single digits, maybe towards freezing, but most areas perhaps just staying on the milder side of freezing out there. Into Tuesday afternoon, temperatures don't rise much, 5 to 8 degrees at best in the south, close to freezing in the north. And remember, the very cold air is spreading in at this point. Overnight into Wednesday, it turns much, much colder for northern areas. Further southwards, still low single digits. By the afternoon of Wednesday, temperatures don't rise at all. They stay below freezing in northern areas and stay around 3 or 4 degrees further southwards. The really cold air is moving in. Now, during Wednesday afternoon, this is where we see some of that precipitation further south and eastwards. You can see the dew points are very marginal. Well below freezing to the north of that disturbance, slightly above freezing to the east and southeast. Somewhere in between, we could see snow even to low-lying areas. As said, could see. It is very much going to be a nowcast situation. It's a typical knife edge pattern, where we could see rain, we could see sleet, we could see snow, we could see all three in a few hours. So it is going to be a nowcast situation. We'll continue to update you, especially in tomorrow's video. Probably being the final video before this potential snow does arrive. But you can see it is a knife edge there. And if we put on the precipitation back on, you can see as that rain, sleet and snow clears during Wednesday, that is when those dew points do rise to a few degrees above freezing, but the cold air could undercut it. Eventually, the cold air does move all back in, so we do all turn much colder after, just as the precipitation clears. You can see into the early hours of Thursday, it's very cold. Coldest night by a long shot for the autumn so far, looking at -3 degrees for quite a large area across the spine of England there, maybe even -4, -5, and into Thursday afternoon, not much above 2 to 4 degrees once again. Overnight into Friday, another widespread frost. We've got clearer skies for central areas, maybe even -8 to -10. The only reason the east coast is slightly milder is because there's still some snow showers, a bit of cloud holding those temperatures up. But it is a very cold night. But milder air is moving in from the west, and you can see into Friday, it's still a cold day, 3 or 4 degrees, but by the evening, frost clears from the east, and into Saturday, temperatures start to rise, more around the mid-single digits there. So still chilly, but turning milder. Now, do check out the latest arpege. I'll run through this quite quickly. It's not too different to the UKV. But you can see those snow showers pushing in at the moment. Overnight, we see some more extensive snow across parts of Scotland, and then we see that mix of rain, sleet and snow pushing southwards. Again, uncertain the typing here, but even some snow across fairly inland, low-lying areas across central southern England there into the early hours of Wednesday. So can't rule that out there. And then continue to see snow showers packing in off the North Sea for the remainder of Wednesday, Thursday into Friday morning, for eventually the Atlantic breaks back through. And again, could be a bit of transient snow on its leading edge. If we do look at the latest icon, it's very, very similar. Again, bit of snow there across Scotland, maybe more widely as that system heads southwards. Again, could see it a little bit inland, low-lying areas, early hours on Wednesday, and then again, just the classic kind of northerly wind, areas of interest along the coasts, maybe further inland for parts of North Wales, southwest England, parts of southwest Wales there, and maybe further eastwards across England. And you can see some of those showers pushing in before eventually the rain does return. Now, if you do look at the longer range, again, we won't focus on this too much because I know a lot of people watching this for the winteriness this week, but of course we'll continue to touch on the longer range. You can see the northerly winds continue to push in over the rest of this week, eventually losing, and a westerly flow returns by the weekend. You can see, though, the jet stream is southerly tracked, still remain chilly. Yes, still unsettled, but still chilly nonetheless. And you can see longer range, we do start to see the lows clearing eastwards, which would be a colder evolution, and still the jet stream 2 hours south, and again could unlock the doors to further cooler spells. Nothing majorly cold by the end of this run, but still does indicate a primed atmosphere for perhaps another block to return. GM, very, very similar over the coming days. Northerly winds, of course, pushing in. That breaks down, and we see a really southerly tracking jet stream there. That's a proper channel low. Now, if we look at the upper air temperatures, you can see there is cold air close, but it's not quite cold enough. This is the sort of run that if this air mass was maybe 3 degrees, 4 degrees cooler, like we'd probably see in January, then this would be a major, major snow event. You can see heavy precipitation, but if we look at the temperatures, it's 4, 5, 6 degrees, and dew points are 3 or 4 degrees. So I said that if the air mass was 3 or 4 degrees cooler, then we would be looking at maybe some big snow there. So some would argue we're missing out. Some would argue we're getting a bit lucky there, as that would be a real snowmaker. You can see beyond that, still some Atlantic ridging and trying to encourage northerly winds, but it doesn't fully come off. Keep with blocking to our north, keep with a southerly tracked jet stream, and still looks like it could be prime, similar to the GFS, for something colder in the subsequent days and weeks. And finally, if we look at the ECMWF, again, northerly winds continue to push in, looking cool and unsettled, longer range. Again, another channel low potentially developing there in around a week's time with another cold northerly flow. Again, if we put on the upper air temperatures, cold air is close by, but there's nowhere near enough really to see enough to produce winteriness. So probably a very cold, rainy scenario there. Beyond that, we stay with those Atlantic ridges, and even out towards the end of this run, we see a bit of an Icelandic high trying to push in east and northeasterly winds. It's not quite strong enough to really pull in the coldest air all the way from our northeast, but it pulls in cold air nonetheless and would turn us chillier, maybe towards perhaps some slight wintry conditions there once again. So all three runs, yes, breaking down the cold air, it returns to something more towards average, but probably will stay on the cooler side of average. And definitely does open the door to further cooler spells or colder spells into early December, as we are starting to expect. And if we look at the latest ensemble members, very cold over the next 4 or 5 days, turning close to average by the weekend and start of next week. But you can still see we are below average by a couple of degrees, just not cold enough for winteriness. It's going to be that 5, 6, 7 degree daytime temperatures, 2 or 3 degrees overnight. Nowhere near cold enough for snow, but it's still cold, chilly, and feels unpleasant. Temperatures even longer range do return closer to average, but still not looking terribly encouraging and still looking pretty unsettled. You can see the dew point is the big indicator, really cold over the next 4 or 5 days, climbing above freezing as we head into next week and beyond, again indicating the end of the Arctic flow. And if we finish by looking at the latest ECMWF ensembles, big drop off over the coming days, little bump there as we head into Wednesday morning, and that is that slightly milder sector with that precipitation moving through. And then longer range, we return close to average, but it still nonetheless looks cool, chilly as we do progress later into November and into the start of December. So yes, cold, wintry conditions will disappear longer range, but still looks like it's going to stay on the colder side of average and still keeps that door open for potentially further colder patterns. Regardless though, next 3 or 4 days, we're going to see kind of a classic northerly wind with all the prone areas seeing snowy and potentially wintry conditions with a lot of showers pushing in. It's nothing too severe this spell, but you could argue for the time of year it is pretty notable. And yeah, we'll have to wait and see how the next few days plays out. But definitely looks like there could be some dangerous conditions out there, so please do stay safe, regardless of if you see snow or not. All areas temperatures are going to drop really low, so there's going to be frost and there is going to be some ice in places. So do make sure you do stay wary, even if you do miss any of the wintriness. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed subscribing new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.